If you struggle with general window operations, internet navigation, uploading and downloading, email, and the Google Drive, Basic Computers 102 is for you, presented by the Workforce Centers of South Central Kansas. Here's an activity that you can try. The first thing would be to click the start button to see what kind of programs you see on your computer. Now, depending on the computer you're on, your start button may look a little bit different depending on the version of Windows. This here is the start button where you see my green arrow circling. When you click on that start button, this picture down below is showing how the programs will show up in the menu. Generally, they're in alphabetical order. There are some programs, though, that are a little bit more difficult to find because they may be stored in another folder sometimes. Sometimes our Microsoft stuff is not necessarily under Excel or Word, but under like a Microsoft Office folder, for example. So you may need to go to the M's instead of the E or W. Okay. What you can also do is actually type in the search bar here the name of the program you're trying to find. So the example would be Notepad. You could type that here and it would generate the applications or the programs that are available on your computer that have the word Notepad in them. Same thing with calculator, we could type that there. Or if you've saved your resume on your computer and you're having trouble finding it, but you know you've titled it resume, you could type resume and it will find everything stored within your computer. So I would encourage you to play around with this. Click the start button, try to look for these few items by going through these methods. One thing that I'll also point out here while I'm on this screenshot of a page is generally there is this gray bar in between these two sections that allows you to scroll up and down if you're having trouble. Also, if you right click, there's a way to pin programs over here in this section for them to be easily accessible. And so that's how some of these are over here, is they pinned it from this menu to make it more accessible. When you have a window open, you'll know it's a window because it will have these three buttons in the top right-hand corner. This one being minimize. The middle button changes depending on the status of the window. So if your window is already full-sized or maximized, then you're going to actually see the middle button have two little windows in it because that's going to restore it down to a smaller size. If your window is in that smaller size already, you're going to see your middle button be just one big square to maximize it. So the middle button does change based on the current status of the window. And then the X will close it out. This is the one you want to be careful of, because if you close something out and you're not ready to close it out, you may have just lost whatever you were doing. Some programs will warn you and say, are you sure you don't want to save? But there are other things, especially like Windows on the internet, that they don't prompt you to save. So if you're in the middle of something and you close it out, you're going to have to retrace your steps. If you're practicing along with opening programs, then you can actually practice now closing out your calculator. You can also do the restore down on the notepad, the maximizer restore down on the notepad. And then you can do that one more time as well. And then go ahead and minimize the word window. So this is just a repeat of what we learned on the other slide. Again, this is minimize and minimize. So whenever you do that, it actually falls down into the taskbar, which I'll be able to show you here in a moment a little bit more clearly. Again, this is the maximize restored down key, and this is the close. So when you minimize the notepad, your notepad should end up down here in the taskbar. So the taskbar actually goes clear from one end of the screen to the other end. But this piece right here is where programs in which you've opened and then minimized, they go to. And so you would likely have a picture of a notepad for that particular program. That icon likely looks like this. And again, depending on if things have been updated in different versions and such, may look a little bit different. But if you click that icon from your taskbar, it then reopens the window. When you have a window open and it's not in maximize view, it's in the smaller view, you can actually put your cursor on the corner here. Now, because I'm not in a true window, this is a screenshot here on my PowerPoint, my cursor isn't changing, but it would change into this double-headed arrow. With that double-headed arrow appearing there, you should be able to click on your mouse. You have to hold it while you're clicking, and then you can drag in and out, and that will resize the window. So maybe you want to see two windows at one time. That would be the purpose of potentially resizing the window. And if you're following along with that little activities here, this is showing you some steps that you can try as well. Now, at the Workforce Center in particular, there's a number of different browsers, but traditionally we tend to use the Microsoft Edge in our classroom. And so this is the picture of the Edge icon. To me, it looks kind of like a wave, but it is the letter E in blue and green. Here's a picture of some other icons that might be familiar to you as well. The first one here, this colorful circle, is actually Google Chrome. This one is Mozilla Firefox, and the compass is actually Safari. So what's the difference between all of the browsers, Edge included? Really, there's not a whole lot of difference. They all really do the same thing. Basically, what a browser is it's the gateway to the internet. It's the door to the internet, if you will. And so while they all basically perform the same function, some may be more compatible with websites than others. Some are specific to devices. For example, the Safari, even though you may be able to get it on other devices, it's one that comes default on like an iPhone or Apple products, for example. Google Chrome has become pretty popular as well. And so Android devices and things like that would have the Google Chrome available. What I would recommend is, if you have a preference, sticking with whatever your preference is, but sometimes applications or other websites may say that they're more compatible with a different one, and you may actually have to download the specific one that they say is more compatible if you have the accessibility to do that on your own computer. So once you go through the door to the internet, you're going to actually land on what we would call a home page. Typically, this is set up either by your internet provider, or maybe you programmed your own homepage in to go to a certain page every time you open the internet. For example, here at the Workforce Center, it traditionally will pop up to our own website, workforce-ks.com. Now, if you were at the library, it would probably pop up to theirs. If you've got internet from your home internet provider, a lot of times they'll make their web page be your home page. Now you can go in and change it. You can change it to your favorite website or your favorite search engine or whatever. And so once you're on the home page, then to know exactly where you want to go, there's kind of two things that would probably happen. One is either you would know the web address you want to go to because somebody has told you, go to this web address to fill out this application. Or the other way would be is that you don't know where you want to go exactly, but you kind of know what you want. And so in that case, you could go to a search engine. And a search engine would then pull up various possibilities for you of what you might be looking for. And so a search engine, to me, I kind of refer it to something similar like a library. It's a resource that's going to provide you many options. If you know the address, you're going to go directly there. Okay. There are three parts to a web address. So when you're typing this in, it will consist of generally www. Now, I will tell you technology has changed and improved, and in many cases, you don't even have to type this in anymore. I still do so by habit, of typing it in for so many years that way. But www stands for World Wide Web. So the first part is www dot, and then you have your URL, or also known as basically the website. So this is the middle section, which would be where you're wanting to go. I want to go to Walmart's website, Yahoo's website, Google, whatever the website URL would be in this middle section. It's also separated by another dot, and then you have your extension. And so the extension, most people have heard of .com, of course. Some people may have heard of .net, .gov, .edu, .org. Those are going to be a little less common than the .com, but generally, government websites are going to use .gov, anything education, .edu, and anything nonprofit will sometimes be .org. So that being said, when you type in your address, it'll be www dot the website dot the extension. And because the extension can vary, that's usually what makes it a little bit tricky sometimes, because you'll think you know exactly where you're going and you want to type in the website, but then you might end up on a page that you're not familiar with because that extension is one that you haven't quite guessed quite right. And so in that case, you would definitely want to use a search engine to go about getting the correct address. So the example here of a complete web address and the way it looks is www.google.com, for example. So on this screenshot, I've actually typed in www.google.com up here in the address bar. You will notice that there is also an HTTPS : // and that's not something that you actually have to type in. It'll automatically default and populate here. Basically, that S is showing that this is a secure site. You'll see that lock there as well. So if it was asking for information like credit card, social, things like that, it's supposed to be a secure website for you to input that kind of information. So that may be something you want to double check before putting in any type of information in regards to your identity or banking information. So once we go to google.com, here's the little emblem that we're on google.com's page. And I want to distinguish between what is the actual address bar and what is the search bar. Up here at the very top in the white is going to be your address bar. And this is where you would type the address if you know exactly where you're going to go. Down here is what we call the search bar. So this is the search within Google, the search engine, or also known in layman's terms here for us is this library, okay? And so you could type something in this search, like a website that you're trying to find, or any type of keyword or phrase, whether that's like how to sew on a button or Hyundai Santa Fe 2009 if you're looking for a certain kind of car, part, or whatever. And so anyhow, it'll come up with a whole bunch of different results based on the phrase or the keyword that you put in the search. Earlier, I told you sometimes you end up at the wrong website because you didn't put in the right extension. For example, if I was wanting to pay my water bill, it's through the city of Wichita. And so I might end up putting www.wichita.com. But what I would have found was that that website actually doesn't exist, but it is for sale right now. Somebody could buy that domain. And so I'd be kind of stuck because I wouldn't know how to get to pay my water bill. But I could type in here, city of Wichita, and I would get results to find my page to pay my water bill. Or I could type in pay Wichita water bill or something along those lines, which will also pull up results, which then would get us to the right website or the correct URL by clicking on the link, which we will talk about a little bit more later. So this is just kind of to show and distinguish between this is the address bar, this is the search bar. If you're going to go directly somewhere and you want to type it in the address bar, it's not that you can't get there from the search bar because you can. It's just usually it takes a few more clicks to get where you're going. And the search bar is often more so used when you're not sure of the website you're going to, but you're searching a topic, if you will. I want to point this out just because I got a good screenshot of it. There's this little plus sign right here. This is the tab to open a new tab. So you could actually have several searches or several websites or addresses up at one time. You can open up additional tabs and toggle between them. So maybe you've got your search engine open, maybe you do have your water bill page open, maybe you do have your other favorite website open, etc. And you go back and forth. I'm actually now on a live account here. And so if I were to type in like how to sew on a button, here are some examples of the results that I would get as I scroll through here. These are the URLs of each of these. And you'll notice that when I scroll over these in blue, they are kind of underlined, and then my pointer turns into a hand, which shows also that it is a link. And so I can click on these, and what a link does is it actually takes you to another page without you having to type the address in. So to put it kind of in a different way, it's basically your bridge from one page to another. Now, if I didn't like this page, I could actually click the back button right here, which would take me back to my search. And you can actually hit the back button as many times as it will let you and go back, back, and back, and back. And then you can hit the forward button and it'll only take you as forward as far as you've gone, of course. And so that's one way to also kind of navigate yourself on the internet as well. Now, up here on this Google platform, but as well as on some other search engines, which we'll talk about too, it will divide things up into like videos. If I wanted to see just videos, I could do that, or just images of how to sew on a button. They also have other categories like shopping. So this is going to give us all the stuff about button materials and things like that. And then they've got more news, books, flights, finance. And so sometimes that's helpful if you're looking for a certain type of thing, like you're looking for a graphic, you might just want to go to the images, okay? It shows here about how many results it populated for us. And so there's more than one search engine. In fact, some people don't like to use Google. They'd rather use Bing. It's really up to your preference. Bing would be another search engine. And you'll notice I typed it up here in the address bar, bing.com. Here we are with our search bar. And I can also type on how to sew on a button. And these are the results. So they look pretty similar to the results. In fact, this picture was the first picture we saw on the last one. So the results are very similar, but the order may be different. Also has these categories up top here as well. There are a multitude of search engines. There's even one called dogpile.com. I think this one's supposed to be where it doesn't save any of your information and be really private, if you will. And so whichever search engine you choose, there may be some that you like the results better as well, but they are very similar in terms of function. So I typed www.walmart.com in the address bar to get here. And I'm just going to point out a few things that are sometimes helpful in internet navigation and understanding. So as you notice, again, that pointer going from a arrow to a hand, this is going to pull up a list of options. I could go to the grocery section. I could pick out what exactly I was looking for. Again, that just linked us to this brownies page with all the brownies. Up here, you'll notice this URL becomes really, really long, something I probably wouldn't want to type in. So that's what's nice about it being linked, is you don't have to type in all of the unique things that are within that URL. If I scroll over a picture, you'll also notice that it goes from a pointer to a hand. So pictures can also be links. And so this now has specifically put us on this product, and we can look at all of the information about the product, etc., and also see similar products. We can hit the back button if we wanted to. What I'm going to do though is actually show you this here. Do you see when we scroll over the word Walmart? If I click that, it'll actually take us back to the home page. A lot of people don't realize that sometimes even just a simple word may actually be a link as well, to take you back to the main page or the main menu. So I encourage you to play around with typing addresses in the address bar, typing things in the search engines, whichever search engine it is that you prefer. Here's kind of a general activity that you could try, or you could try looking up some other things on your own. But if you needed some ideas of what you could do, this is something you could try on your own to get practice in using the links and using the search engine and the address bars. In preparing to move toward saving documents, uploading documents, downloading documents, and such, let's talk about saving documents to a storage device. As you know, floppy disk really isn't used all that often anymore. It's pretty outdated, as well as CD DVD. So CD DVD would get scratched and broke easily. That's one of the reasons that I wouldn't recommend using it, even if you are able to find a CD and a CD drive. Flash drive and cloud service are going to be the most common ways in which things are saved these days. A flash drive, this isn't a very good picture I see here. Looks like something happened to my image, but it would be something you can plug into the computer, a thumb drive, flash drive, USB, or other names that it is called. And then we've got the cloud service. And so the cloud service is going to be something you only need a username and password. Generally, that's like your email address and your password. It's stored on a server elsewhere. And so you don't have to carry anything with you. The flash drive is usually pretty small, so of course that could get lost. It's usually pretty durable though. And so that's kind of the advantages and disadvantages of each of those. The cloud service, while it should be fairly safe, with any technology, I mean, it does have the potential for it to potentially become hacked. So there are a little bit of security things there, but it wouldn't be anything that would prevent myself from using a cloud service as well.
So what's the difference between uploading and downloading?
Uploading is taking something that you already have possession of and putting it into an email or a message on the computer or an application, for example. When you're getting ready to upload, depending on the site you're on, you may see it look a little differently. Sometimes it may just say browse. Sometimes it may actually say upload. Sometimes you might be looking at a paper clip that says attach files. That's often what it looks like in an email. And sometimes you might see actually an up arrow button to signify that you'd be uploading. Downloading, on the other hand, is when you're taking something off the computer or from a website or from a storage device and putting it on your computer or to another storage device or cloud. And so you might see it say download. You might see a down arrow. You might also see this emblem or symbol for the cloud, which the one you see here is for actually the Google Drive cloud. Now there's lots of different clouds depending on your phone service provider. You may have a cloud service through them. The Drive is fairly popular though, and so that's the reason why I have that one here. If you have a Google account, you actually have a cloud service, and you may not even know that. What is the difference then between save and save as? Because this is going to be important when you're saving things to your devices, your storage devices, so you can upload them to or download them to your devices. Okay. So this is actually a picture from Word. So it may potentially look different depending on the program or platform that you're in. But a lot of times you'll see just like a little floppy disk, and that generally means just save, which save allows you to update a previously saved file with new content. So let's say you just made an update of a date or a number or whatever, and you're just wanting to save your changes, if you will. And so the floppy disk would work for that. Now, save as, this allows you to save a new file or replace an existing file with a new name or a new place that you're storing it at. And so in Word, if we were wanting to do save as, we'd actually have to click this file button, and then this screen would pop up and we would have the option again between save or save as. So save as will allow us to name the document and decide where we want to store the document. Depending on your computer, it may look like this or it may not. But a lot of times then to move forward to the next step, you have to also click computer and then browse. Once you click computer and then browse, this save as dialog box will pop up. In the save dialog box, you will have these different categories here in which you can choose from. And I'd like to think of this as your storage cabinet. So you have to decide where you're going to store this document. Generally, desktop will be one of the options. It's not an option here in this graphic. And I tend to save to my desktop because I remember where it's at then. However, if you have a different organizational system or you can remember things differently than I can, you could select one of these other options to decide where you're going to store your document. After that, you come down here and you input the name. Many times it'll default the name to like the first few words of a sentence or whatever that is on the page. So if you're not going to remember that, I encourage you to change the file name to something you would remember. The save as type will also default to the type of program you're in. This happens to be a screenshot from Excel. So it says Excel workbook, but if I was in Word, it would say Word, for example. And so usually you don't have to touch this. Later in another class, we talk about changing the file type, but we're not going to talk about that today in this class. And so once you update the name, after you've designated where you're storing it, and you do actually have to click that, even though this is grayed out here, I'd actually have to click Windows C if that's where I wanted it to go. I can then click Save. In some programs, you may also see Save As icon, like a floppy disk with a pencil. It likely won't have any color, likely it'll be all gray. But I wanted to point that out as well, because if you're in a different type of program and you're wanting to save something, Save As, so you can decide where you're storing it and what you're naming it, you may need to click the floppy disk with the pen.
When it comes time to choose a
File to open or to choose a file that you're uploading or whatnot, you would see an open dialog box come up. And so it looks fairly similar to our Save As dialog box. The difference is that instead of it stating, a name here that you would be typing in, and the type and then hitting save is to find a document that you're looking for. You're going to choose where you stored it in your filing cabinet. This one does happen to have desktop, as mentioned in the last slide. But you would select which filing cabinet you put it in. And then on this side, you'll see the document. And then you'll click the document and you'll click open to either get that into an upload option or to open it just in general. So we can talk about uploading a little bit more clearly. I also want to talk about composing an email, because I'm going to show you what it would look like if we were to upload a document into an email. Now, some may not be familiar with writing emails, so I'm going to start here with showing that this is where you would type who it's going to. This is going to be the subject matter. And here's the body of the message. If we were going to attach something, then we would actually click this paperclip if there was something we were going to upload into this file. So in Gmail, if we wanted to start an email so we could do all that you just saw, we would actually have to hit compose, and this is what the compose button looks like in Gmail. Once we click compose, this is what it would look like blank before we put in the to, the subject, the body, or upload any document. Once you've chosen to upload a document, like I said, you would click the paperclip, then that open dialog box would pop back up, You choose the file, and then you're going to see it begin to upload. And it happens usually very quickly. So you may not even see this part where it's here and it's loading. And once it's loaded, you'll just usually see the name of the document, and then you could hit send.
Now, if I had received an
An email with an attachment in it, and I wanted to download it to my computer, then this is what it would look like once I open the email. Here's the body of their message. Here's their attachment. And I could click the down arrow to download it, or I could actually click this emblem here that I mentioned before with the Google Drive.
So if I had downloaded it to the Google Drive, for example.
Well, you may be asking yourself, well, how do I even get to the Google Drive? At the very top in a Gmail account, you'll see these 9 squares or this grid, and it opens up a menu of all the Google products. And that's where you would click the drive. The drive is actually a pretty cool tool because it has a lot of different things that you can do besides just a place to store your documents or to upload your documents there. There is also free programs called Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, and Google Forms actually as well. And so Docs would be compatible to Word, Sheets, Excel, Slides to PowerPoint, and Forms is kind of a unique one, but it's a really cool tool to do surveys and things of that nature. Now, if I had something that I clicked the drive, this is how I could go about finding it. It would be stored over here in this section somewhere. Now, if I didn't click the little triangle from an email, but let's say I had a file I wanted to upload to the drive that maybe I created on my own, I could also click where it says file upload, and basically that window for selecting the document you want would pop up, and you'd follow those prompts, go to where you stored it, find the document, and it would upload here. So if you have time to play around with your own email account, I would encourage you to go in there and try to upload a document, because you can actually send an email message from yourself to yourself. So you could practice uploading and downloading through your email. If you would like some additional practice on other things, here's some sites that also are helpful. I am particularly really like this gcflearnfree.org as well. In addition, there are some other computer resources that I'd like to make you aware of, and I will show you that here in 1 second. So if you type in the URL workforce-ks.com in the address bar, you can actually go to the workshops and assessments page and then click workshops. And you'll have to scroll down a little bit, but where it says digital skills, you click that. And here are some other resources for digital skills to improve them. If you're more at the basic level and learning the computer, I would recommend EBSCO Learning Express. If you click this link, we've already paid for the service. You will have to end up creating you an account, but we have this service that allows you to go to this Computer Skills Center. If you click that, you can actually take different lessons, computer basics. There's also popular software tools. So if you are more advanced as well, then you can check out these other software tools that interest you. A lot of them are video lessons, and so you'll complete those. Some of them can be pretty lengthy in terms of content. For example, looks like an hour and 30 minutes here for this one. I've seen others, depending on what it is, could be 8 hours worth of content, etc. But it is one way to do a little bit of self-paced learning on your own as well. Thank you for watching today. Hopefully it was helpful. And if you enjoy our content, I would encourage you also to follow us on social media, our Facebook, YouTube, etc., as we do try to continue to update content regularly. Thank you.